What if the one thing you've been avoiding is the one thing that can change everything? Not motivation, not luck, not talent, but discipline. The quiet decision you make when no one is watching. The action you take when excuses are loud. Imagine waking up knowing you trust yourself. Imagine your confidence no longer depending on results but on effort. This is not a hype speech. This is a wake-up call. Because discipline doesn't just change your schedule, it changes your brain, your standards, and your future. Stay with me because this might be the moment your life shifts. Denzel Washington once said that dreams without goals remain dreams, and goals without discipline become disappointment. That truth hits hard because deep down we already know it. We live in a world addicted to motivation, obsessed with inspiration, and hungry for shortcuts. We scroll, we watch, we listen, hoping something outside of us will push us forward. But psychology teaches us something uncomfortable. Lasting change never comes from excitement, it comes from discipline. Quiet, boring, repetitive discipline. Discipline is what separates who you are from who you could become. It is the ability to do what is necessary, long after the mood is gone. Your brain is designed to seek comfort, avoid pain, and conserve energy. That's survival. But growth demands the opposite. Growth demands intentional discomfort. Discipline trains your brain to delay pleasure, to focus under pressure, and to choose long-term rewards over short-term relief. This is not about being harsh on yourself. This is about respecting yourself enough to demand more. Most people don't fail because life is too hard. They fail because their standards are too low. Discipline raises your standards. It forces you to ask better questions. Who am I becoming? What am I practicing every day? What story am I telling my nervous system through my actions? Every disciplined choice sends a signal to your subconscious that you are in control. Over time, anxiety decreases, confidence increases, and clarity sharpens. You stop feeling lost because your actions give your life direction. Denzel Washington's journey wasn't built on luck. It was built on showing up when it was uncomfortable, staying committed when it was inconvenient, and trusting the process when results were invisible. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't trend. It doesn't go viral. But it works. It works when talent fails. It works when motivation disappears. It works when no one is cheering. If you want a different life, you need a different system. Discipline is that system. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes how you think, how you feel, and how you see yourself. And once your self-image changes, your life has no choice but to follow. Discipline is not punishment, it is identity. Most people hear the word discipline and immediately feel resistance because the brain associates it with restriction, pain, or control. But psychologically, discipline is the opposite of oppression. Discipline is self-definition. It is the moment you stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming?" The brain craves certainty and order. When your life lacks structure, your mind becomes noisy, anxious, and reactive. Discipline gives your nervous system something powerful, predictability. And predictability creates calm. Every time you act with discipline, you send a message to your subconscious. You are not just completing a task, you are reinforcing an identity. Neuroscience tells us that the brain changes through repetition. When you repeatedly show up on time, finish what you start, and do what is uncomfortable, neural pathways strengthen around self-trust and reliability. Over time, you don't need external motivation because your identity takes over. You don't work out because you're motivated, you work out because that's who you are. You don't study, train, or practice because you feel inspired. You do it because your brain recognizes consistency as normal. One of the biggest psychological traps people fall into is emotional negotiation. They wait for confidence before acting, wait for motivation before starting, wait for clarity before committing. Discipline cuts through that cycle. It teaches your mind that action comes first, emotions follow. When you act despite resistance, your brain learns that discomfort is not danger. This is critical. Most people are not afraid of failure, they are afraid of discomfort. Discipline slowly retrains the fear center of the brain to tolerate effort, uncertainty, and delay. And when fear loses control, potential finally has space to breathe. Discipline also removes decision fatigue. An undisciplined life is full of constant choices. Should I do this now or later? Should I quit or continue? Should I try again or give up? These micro decisions drain mental energy. Discipline simplifies life. When your habits are fixed, your standards are clear, and your routine is intentional, the brain conserves energy for creativity, problem solving, and growth. This is why disciplined people often appear calm under pressure. Their minds are not chaotic. They already decided who they are and how they operate. Perhaps the most powerful psychological benefit of discipline is self-respect. Confidence is not built by positive thinking or affirmations, it is built by evidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you deposit proof into your self-image. And every time you break one, you withdraw trust. Discipline keeps that account full. You start believing in yourself not because you hope, but because you have receipts. This belief is quiet, grounded, and unshakable. Over time, discipline becomes automatic. What once felt hard becomes natural. The brain adapts. Resistance fades. Identity solidifies. You no longer chase motivation because you no longer need permission to act. Discipline becomes your inner authority. And when your identity is rooted in discipline, your life stops being controlled by moods, circumstances, or opinions. You move with purpose, clarity, and inner strength because you know exactly who you are and you live in alignment with that truth. Discipline is the bridge between potential and proof. Almost everyone carries unrealized potential, but psychology shows us that potential alone can actually become a burden. When talent is not expressed through action, it turns into frustration, self-criticism, and doubt. You start asking yourself painful questions. Why am I not where I should be? What's wrong with me? The truth is rarely a lack of ability. It is a lack of consistent execution. Discipline is what converts invisible ability into visible results. The human brain is wired to respond to feedback. When your actions are inconsistent, the brain receives mixed signals. One day you work hard, the next day you disappear. This inconsistency creates cognitive dissonance, a mental conflict that slowly erodes confidence. You don't trust yourself because you have no pattern to follow through. Discipline eliminates that conflict. When you show up daily, even imperfectly, the brain starts recognizing a patterns create belief. You begin to believe in yourself not because you succeeded once, but because you are reliable. Discipline also changes your relationship with effort. Most people associate effort with pain, struggle, or sacrifice. That association comes from irregular exposure. When effort is occasional, it feels heavy. When effort is consistent, the brain adapts. Psychologically, repeated exposure reduces perceived difficulty. This is why disciplined people often make hard things look easy. Not because they are special, but because their nervous system is trained. They are no longer shocked by effort. They expect it. And expectation reduces resistance. One of the most underrated effects of discipline is momentum. Motivation is fragile, momentum is durable. Motivation depends on emotion, mood, and circumstances. Momentum depends on action. Every disciplined step creates a small win, and small wins release dopamine in the brain. That dopamine reinforces behavior, making it easier to repeat. This is how discipline compounds. What starts as forced action slowly turns into intrinsic drive. You stop pushing yourself because the system begins to pull you forward. Discipline also teaches patience, a critical psychological skill in a world addicted to instant gratification. The brain naturally seeks quick rewards. Discipline retrains it to value delayed rewards. This shift changes everything. You stop quitting early. You stop switching paths every time progress feels slow. You learn to trust the process, not because it's guaranteed, but because consistency gives you data. You can evaluate, adjust, and improve instead of giving up emotionally. Without discipline, failure feels personal. With discipline, failure feels informative. This is a powerful mindset shift. When you are disciplined, your self-worth is no longer attached to outcomes, but to effort. You don't collapse when results are slow because you know you are doing the work. This psychological safety allows you to take bigger risks, stay longer in the game, and grow faster. Over time, discipline closes the gap between who you imagine yourself to be and who you actually are. Potential stops haunting you and starts serving you. You no longer live with the pain of almost, you live with proof. Proof that you can show up, proof that you can endure discomfort, proof that you can build something step by step. And once your brain experiences that proof repeatedly, confidence becomes natural, resilience becomes automatic, and your potential finally becomes real. Discipline creates freedom, not restriction. This idea sounds backwards to an undisciplined mind because the brain naturally equates freedom with doing whatever it wants, whenever it wants. But psychology reveals a deeper truth. The absence of structure does not create freedom, it creates chaos. When your actions are controlled by impulse, mood, and external pressure, you are not free. You are reactive. Discipline is what returns control back to you. An undisciplined mind lives in constant tension. It wants results without effort, pleasure without consequence, and progress without patience. This internal conflict produces stress, guilt, and regret. You procrastinate, then punish yourself mentally. You avoid hard tasks, then feel ashamed. Over time, this cycle damages self-esteem and increases anxiety. Discipline breaks this loop. When you commit to a standard and follow it, the mind relaxes. There is no inner debate. You know what needs to be done and you do it. That clarity feels like freedom. One of the most powerful psychological gifts of discipline is emotional regulation. Most people believe emotions control behavior. Discipline flips that relationship. When you act consistently regardless of mood, the brain learns that emotions are signals, not commands. You stop being a prisoner of how you feel in the moment. This is real freedom, the ability to choose your response instead of reacting automatically. Over time, emotional swings lose their intensity because your identity is no longer tied to them. Discipline also creates time freedom. The undisciplined life is full of wasted hours, distractions, and unfinished tasks. This creates the illusion of being busy while producing very little. Discipline introduces intentionality. You plan, prioritize, and execute. As a result, you finish faster, waste less energy, and gain more usable time. This extra time isn't just about productivity. It reduces mental clutter. When tasks are handled on schedule, they stop haunting your thoughts. Your mind becomes lighter, clearer, and more focused. Another layer of freedom discipline provides is freedom from regret. Regret is one of the heaviest psychological burdens a human can carry. It comes from knowing you could have acted differently but didn't. Discipline minimizes regret because it aligns your actions with your values. Even when outcomes aren't perfect, you can live with peace because you know you gave your best. That peace is priceless. It allows you to move forward without carrying emotional weight from the past. Discipline also builds long-term freedom through delayed gratification. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you invest in your future self. The brain slowly learns to associate effort with empowerment. This rewiring changes how you see challenges. Instead of feeling trapped by hard work, you feel strengthened by it. You begin to realize that discipline is not something you lose, it's something you gain. You gain self-respect, stability, and direction. Ultimately, discipline gives you freedom from dependence. You stop depending on motivation, approval, or perfect conditions. You become self-led. When life becomes unpredictable, as it always does, you don't fall apart because your foundation is internal. Discipline becomes your anchor, and that is the highest form of freedom. Knowing that no matter what happens, you can rely on yourself to act with intention, strength, and purpose. Discipline compounds into destiny. This is the keynote most people overlook because it doesn't show immediate results. Psychologically, the human brain is impatient. It wants fast feedback, visible rewards, and instant validation. Discipline works differently. Discipline operates on a delayed return system, and that delay is exactly why most people quit too early. But those who understand this truth gain a massive advantage. They stay long enough for compounding to take effect. Every disciplined action may feel small, even insignificant. One workout, 1 hour of practice, one focused session, one hard conversation. On its own, it doesn't seem life-changing. But the brain does not measure progress linearly. It adapts exponentially. Repeated behaviors reshape neural pathways, beliefs, and identity. Over time, discipline stops being something you do and becomes something you are. That's when destiny quietly begins to shift. The psychology of compounding is powerful. When you are disciplined, your brain begins to expect progress. This expectation changes perception. Obstacles no longer feel like stop signs. They feel like part of the path. You stop overreacting to setbacks because your time horizon expands. You're no longer focused on today's discomfort, but on long-term direction. This is why disciplined people appear patient and resilient. Their mind is operating on a bigger timeline. Discipline also compounds emotionally. Early on, discipline feels heavy because the brain is resisting change, but as consistency builds, resistance weakens. Pride replaces shame. Calm replaces anxiety. Confidence replaces self-doubt. These emotional shifts reinforce behavior, creating a positive feedback loop. You're no longer forcing discipline. Discipline is reinforcing you. This internal alignment is rare, and it's why disciplined individuals often feel grounded even in chaos. Another powerful effect of discipline compounding is credibility with yourself and with others. When people see consistency over time, trust forms naturally. Opportunities begin to appear not because you ask, but because your reputation speaks. More importantly, you trust yourself. You know that when you commit, you follow through. That self-trust becomes a psychological superpower. It allows you to take bigger risks, pursue bigger goals, and withstand longer seasons of uncertainty. Discipline also compounds into legacy. Not just what you achieve, but who you become in the process. The habits you build shape your character. Your character shapes your decisions. Your decisions shape your life. This chain reaction is slow, but it is unstoppable once in motion. 1 year of discipline can change your trajectory. 5 years can change your family's future. 10 years can redefine how you are remembered. Most people underestimate what discipline can do because they judge it by short-term results. But discipline is not about today's outcome. It's about tomorrow's advantage. While others rely on bursts of motivation, disciplined individuals rely on systems. While others restart repeatedly, disciplined individuals continue. And continuation is what wins. In the end, destiny is not chosen in dramatic moments. It is built quietly, daily, repeatedly. Discipline is the invisible hand shaping your future when no one is watching. And if you stay disciplined long enough, one day you'll look back and realize the life you're living now was once just a small decision you made when quitting would have been easier. Discipline is not a phase, not a challenge, not something you try for a few weeks and abandon when life gets hard. Discipline is a lifelong decision. It is the moment you stop asking the world to change and start changing yourself. Everything you've heard up to this point comes down to one truth. Your life will not rise to your hopes. It will fall to your standards. And discipline is what sets those standards in stone. You don't need more time. You don't need more resources. You don't need perfect conditions. What you need is the courage to do what is necessary, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, even when no one is clapping. Because discipline doesn't wait for applause. It waits for commitment. The kind of commitment that shows up early, stays late, and keeps going when quitting would feel easier. Right now, there is a version of you that your excuses are protecting. And there is a version of you that discipline is trying to reveal. One is comfortable, the other is powerful. One stays stuck in cycles, the other breaks patterns. The choice between them is not made in a single dramatic moment, but in small, quiet decisions you make every day. Do I show up or do I delay? Do I do the work or do I negotiate with my emotions? Those decisions are shaping your future whether you realize it or not. Denzel Washington reminds us that ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. Hard times build strength. Easy times build habits. And if those habits are undisciplined, they will slowly destroy your potential. Discipline is what keeps you sharp when life feels soft. It keeps you grounded when success starts whispering comfort. It reminds you that who you become matters more than what you achieve. Understand this. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. You will have bad days. You will feel tired. You will doubt yourself. But discipline says, I move anyway. And every time you move anyway, you win a psychological battle. You prove to your mind that you are in charge. That proof builds unshakable confidence, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that doesn't need validation. Imagine waking up a year from now knowing you didn't quit. Knowing you didn't betray your own goals, knowing you stayed disciplined when no one was watching. That feeling is worth every uncomfortable moment you're avoiding today. Regret is painful, but discipline prevents regret. Pain is temporary, but the pride of self-respect lasts. This is your moment to decide who you will be when motivation disappears, because it will disappear. Discipline is what remains. Discipline is what carries you through boredom, fear, and uncertainty. Discipline is what turns ordinary people into extraordinary examples. So start now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Choose one disciplined action and do it, then do it again and again. Let discipline shape your mornings, your work ethic, your mindset, your character. Because once discipline becomes your lifestyle, your life will never be the same again. This is not just about success. This is about becoming someone you respect. And when you respect yourself, the world has no choice but to respond. Discipline will change your life forever, if you let it.